We are now only a few days away from week 1 of the NFL season, meaning we are just a couple days away from playing meaningful NFL football once again, and Allaqcess Sports is here to hopefully help you make some better fantasy decisions. This is our sleepers, studs, and stacks. If you haven't been here before, we're basically highlighting value plays, top tier plays, and stacks that you can put into your lineup to put you in a better position to win. Make sure you pay attention in the video to find out how you can win a $10 Draftkings ticket or get one covered for free, as well as how you can find our starting 5 and our best bets each and every weekend. Again, if I haven't introduced myself, I'm Bradley with Allaqcess Sports. So welcome back to the channel. I want to start by reminding you that I will always play small week 1. And usually pretty much week 2 as well. The odds are really in the favor of the people that are playing 150 lineups. They can take the risk of putting in literally 150 lineups with multiple long shots. I don't have that kind of luxury, man. Like, I don't have that kind of wallet space. I play small or single entry and double ups week 1 and week 2, and then I only play 1 or 2 lineups. I come up with my starting 5. I mentioned earlier, I come up with a starting 5 and then kind of adjust around that. It's usually a quarterback, 2 running backs, a wide receiver, and a defense or a tight end that I really, really love and I want to take advantage of, and then kind of fit in everyone else around that to see what my best options are. So if you're interested in seeing that lineup, before the game starts each week, you have 2 options. You can go above and beyond in support of the channel and go over to patreon.com/allaccess. That's AQCESS. That's down in the description below. And you'll get a look at our starting 5, our best bets of the week, weather updates, and more, and select what tier you want if you are interested in supporting the channel through Patreon. That comes out Friday and Saturday mornings. But if you want to see it for free, we always want to give you an option for free, because I do want to help everyone take down the big dogs that are up there. You know, the Chipotle addicts of the world. So if you want to see it for free, find us on Facebook, facebook.com/allaccess. That's also down in the description below. That comes out Sunday morning, about an hour and a half before kickoff. And again, you'll see that starting 5, the late bloomers report, where we look at some of the injuries that have come out throughout the week, and you know, just help you out after this video has come out. So it's officially our 7th year on YouTube. Thank you so much for coming back. I genuinely mean that. Thank you. So without further ado, we'll get right into the video. Now, if you were here last week or the week before, you saw part 1 of this video come out. We have a lot of changes that need to be made. So we're moving Jerick McKinnon. It looks like Darrell Williams and CEH are both healthy, so Jerick McKinnon is going to be used on a very limited basis. Not worth the risk. Justin Jackson, Austin Eckler, fully healthy. Not worth the risk. Cam Newton, obviously been released. And Chase Edmonds, a slight bump down. I don't love this pick as much as I did when the first video came out, because there's other value that is much better at the position, starting with Gus Edwards. Corey Davis, a lot of people are sleeping on. We'll get into that in a minute, but the New York Jets wide receiver situation, a lot of people are sleeping on Corey Davis. Jameis Winston for obvious reasons, and then Jacoby Myers and Dalvin Cook. We'll get into that as we move through. Now, our sleepers. These aren't technically... This is more value, I think, is what people need to understand. These are players under $5,500 that are going to give you an opportunity to score big points. Our goal with our sleepers is to always get 4 times points per $1,000 spent. So if we're going to spend $5,000, I want the floor or the opportunity to be about 20 to 25 points. That's 4 to 5 times my value, and that's what you need, especially early on in the season, because people are priced all over the place. Again, Draftkings gets you $50,000. 4 times 50 is going to be 200. So 200 points is the goal, and that should be cashing every single week, with the exception of maybe week 1, because pricing is so all over the place. So the first name, still Michael Pittman Jr. at $4,100 against Seattle. Indianapolis is playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. I don't think I can reiterate that enough. Michael Pittman Jr. is the #1 guy there. They have a lot of tight ends to throw to. They're going to have a stable of running backs, but Michael Pittman Jr. looks to be the solid #1 option for this week. Secondly, Jacoby Myers, 5,100 against Miami. Miami's very good. Again, but he had 111 yards and 7 receptions going up against them last year. Mac Jones is going to be back there. Listen, I'm a Cam stan for life, okay? But Mac Jones is going to have to facilitate the ball to someone. He's probably going to be incorporating those tight ends that they have, so be looking at those tight ends. I think there's a lot of really cheap tight ends this week, but Jacoby Myers at $5,100 for wide receiver 1 is a great value. Laviska Shenault Jr., $5,000 against Houston. Houston's bad. Okay, they are really bad. There's a lot of college teams that could probably compete with Houston right now, and I don't say that often. Like normally people are like, oh, could Alabama beat Detroit? No. However, there's a lot of teams that could probably beat this Houston Texans team because they're not very good. They're struggling to have offensive weapons. They don't have very many except for 8 running backs, it feels like. The Jaguars should have plenty of opportunity to make plays against a bad Houston Texans defense. I think DJ Chark, with his injuries, they'll be a little bit more reserved. Marvin Jones, with his injuries, if he is playing, they'll be a little bit more reserved, and that's going to leave Laviska Shenault to be the main wide receiver week 1. Even though he's going to be playing out of the slot at $5,000, he's wide receiver 3, but he's going to be the number 1 playmaker in this game. Corey Davis against Carolina. He's going to be the number 1 target for New York Jets, right? Him and Tyler Kroft, which not enough people are talking about. Those 2 guys for Zach Wilson. It's not going to be a great offense, but Corey Davis and Tyler Kroft are going to make an impact because the ball's got to go somewhere, right? He's going to see an abundance of targets, and he's going to be paired up against Dante Jackson, who's just a fast guy but has struggled with a little bit more physical receivers, some of the bigger guys. So it'll be an interesting matchup. I would expect him to get 7 to 10 targets in this game. As a Panthers fan and as a inheritance of the product, I think the Carolina Panthers are going to win this one, forcing the New York Jets to throw the ball, especially because they don't have a reliable running back. Corey Davis should be in a great spot. Jerry Jeudy, 4,800 against the New York Jets. Probably going to be the favorite target of Teddy Bridgewater. He's a fantastic route runner. New York Giants, their defense has been average at best. I think their offense is much improved, which is going to result in probably a higher scoring game than you would think. I don't know what else to tell you. Jerry Jeudy at 4,800 is a very good play at that value. I still like Michael Pittman at 4,100 more and Laviska at 5,000. I either want to pay up by 200 or pay down by 900 and go get another running back because I love to put 3 running backs in my 50-50 lineups. Dallas Goedert, talked about him last week. Atlanta's linebackers have always been horrible against running backs that can catch and tight ends that go across the middle. Don't think you can expose that defense enough. And more to watch. I know it looks like a lot, but week 2, week 3, week 4, it's going to be a lot less than this. It's just there's so much value at the wide receiver position week 1 that it's kind of hard to fit it all onto one page. So the quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, 5,200, I'm a little bit more reserved about. And then Joe Burrow, a lot of people are talking about him. I'm not as heavily interested, but I know a lot of people wanted to know. I'm going to hold back. Because I do play reserved, I'm going to hold back until we get more into the season to see exactly how Joe Burrow is feeling, how he's reacting. He even did a drill the other day where he had the coaches kind of, allegedly, this was a report, that he had coaches stand around him just so he could get used to feeling in a pocket because he still felt uncomfortable back there. I don't want that out of my quarterback. I'm a little timid to select that, but a lot of people were asking, so we wanted to talk about it in the video. Running backs, Chase Edmonds, I'll leave him up there. I'm not thrilled by him with some of the other value that's there, but Mike Davis at $5,400 against Philadelphia. Tevin Coleman, $4,900 against Carolina, who struggles to stop any running back. They struggle to get off the field on 3rd down. If they're going to sustain drives, I think Tevin Coleman's going to have a couple of key carries, especially in the red zone. I think he's a real red zone threat, but you do have to take that with a grain of salt because they are also going to be a running back by committee, but I think Tevin Coleman is probably going to be the number 1 guy to start the season. A couple more wide receivers. Russell Gage, if you're interested in those bad Philadelphia defensive backs, which I absolutely am. I think Russell Gage at 5,400 is a great choice. Not sure how many red zone targets he'll get with Kyle Pitts there and Mike Davis just kind of stumbling into the end zone. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. If you're confident in Joe Burrow, I don't see why you don't pair him with one of these 2 guys because that Minnesota defense has been vulnerable at times to the pass. So if you want to go into that one, I think it could be a sneaky play if it pays off. Tight ends, same as last week. Robert Tonyan, Kyle Pitts, Dan Arnold, 2,600 against New York Jets, the starter. Tyler Kroft, 2,500 against Carolina, the starter, who should see also an abundance of targets. I think he had 3 touchdowns in preseason with Zach Wilson. Carolina, kind of in that same boat as the Atlanta Falcons. They have a bunch of linebackers who do struggle in coverage. They'll generate pressure, so he'll be in there to block a little bit. But if he can get over the middle, he'll have some quick checkdowns. I don't see why he doesn't have 3 or 4 receptions in this game. Again, if I'm getting 12 to 15 points out of a $2,500 tight end, I'm feeling pretty good. Now we move on to the studs, And these are my favorite plays of the week, the favorite high dollar plays of the weeks, I should say. These are the expensive guys that are absolutely worth putting into your lineup. There's a lot of studs week one. There's a lot of sleepers week one. There's a lot of people to take advantage of as a sleeper at the wide receiver position. So I want to fit 3 high-priced running backs in there. So you'll see this is a little bit running back heavy. Keenan Allen, 6,900 against Washington. That's where we're starting this off. I do have that worry, again, we mentioned it last week, about him not playing in the preseason, but in practice, they look really good together. I don't have too many doubts about Keenan Allen at 6,900 being one of my favorite wide receiver plays of the week. Christian McCaffrey, don't need to say much going up against the Jets. James Robinson, we mentioned it last week. I was already confident with Travis Etienne in the lineup. Now without him, I'm even more confident. And for people saying that whoever the... Carlos Hyde. I was going to say Frank Gore, but Carlos Hyde. People saying that Carlos Hyde is going to eat into James Robinson's workload. Look at the workload that he put in last year and tell me that you don't think that he's going to have just an abundance of carries. All right. Houston's terrible. We went over that. How terrible are they? 32nd in the league in rush yards per game and 24 touchdowns. Almost a touchdown and a half on the ground per game. At $6,400, you're looking to get 20 to 25 points from James Robinson, who I believe last year averaged 21 fantasy points per game. Going off the top of my head, I think you're in a great spot. Also, with the threat of Trevor Lawrence being able to pass the ball, that box should open up a little bit. They're going to feed James Robinson even more to take a little bit of pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. If you're the Jaguars coaching staff, I think he's going to be an absolute workhorse this week and probably the cheapest you'll see him all year. Justin Herbert, went over him last week. Dalvin Cook, $9,100 against Cincinnati. He is pricey. But Cincinnati was 29th in rush yards per game, given up defensively in 2020. I think Minnesota plays from ahead, especially if they do generate a little bit of pressure on Joe Burrow. They could jump ahead early, and Dalvin Cook will be force-fed the ball. Calvin Ridley, $7,900 against Philadelphia. Philadelphia's defensive backs burned by excellent route runners all year last year. They have a little bit of speed, but they weren't great tacklers. Calvin Ridley is fantastic in the open field and an excellent route runner. I think Matt Ryan stays with his favorite target after Julio Jones goes down and is now gone out of town. I think he continues to utilize him in a big, big way. More to watch. A lot of this stays the same. Russell Wilson against Indianapolis, Matt Ryan against Philadelphia. You see a trend with this Atlanta Falcons offense, right? I'm mentioning them a lot. I have high hopes for them, and we'll get into that into the stacks. Derrick Henry, 8,800 against Arizona. I think he's a great play. I know you probably think, Bradley, you've already listed 3 really good running backs. Yeah, I love the running backs this week. I think there's a ton of low value for wide receivers, and your high guys, your high expensive guys at the running back position are who you need to focus on. Derrick Henry, I really like at 8,800. I love James Robinson at 6,400 more. So that's why Derrick Henry's down here in the more to watch. Nick Chubb, they're going to get beat by the Kansas City Chiefs, but Stefanski will not leave the run. He is going to run the ball down your throat. He's going to utilize his running backs. He's going to make sure that Nick Chubb is involved. Kareem Hunt will obviously get some targets out of the backfield, but Nick Chubb is that dude. They were down by like 14, 15 points last year, late in the season, and they still had Nick Chubb in there. I'm like, what are they doing? They didn't abandon it. They came back and won the game because that's just what he does. Nick Chubb is going to be a workhorse in 2021. Raheem Mostert at 5,800. I know a lot of people are thinking Trey Sermon is going to be like that guy. I don't see him getting involved too early this year. I think Raheem Mostert at 5,800 is still a good value play if you're looking at someone in middle tier. It's worth the risk because Detroit was horrible against the run last year. They don't have great defensive backs, so I think they're going to have to play those linebackers back a little bit just to cover a deep threat like Brandon Ayuk, which should give Raheem Mostert plenty of room to operate down low. Wide receivers, DJ Moore against New York Jets, probably going to be the favorite target of Sam Darnold. I think Robbie Anderson's also a viable option. Maybe, like myself, you want to be a little bit more reserved with this Carolina Panthers offense and wait to see how it plays out week one, just to see who that main threat and main option is going to be besides CMC. Brandon Ayuk at 5,700 against Detroit. We picked on this team all year last year. Okuda got a little bit better as the season went on, but Detroit's really nothing to scream home about. Their offense, they don't have a whole lot of weapons. So I think the 49ers defense is going to give the 49ers offense plenty of opportunities to put up points. They're going to have plenty of possessions. They are a run-first team, but when they want to take chances, they are going to take chances. Deep down the field, Brandon Ayuk at 5,700 against a really bad Detroit Lions offense. It's borderline sleeper pick at $5,700. I think he should be priced up way higher than that. Justin Jefferson, 7,700 against Cincinnati. He was great all year last year. You don't really need to say much about it going up against an average Cincinnati Bengals offense. The thing that worried me is on the road, his splits were far worse than at home. Devante Adams going up against New Orleans. I love Devante Adams. I am worried that they're going to get ahead early. He didn't have a whole lot of preseason work with Aaron Rodgers. Granted, they're a great duo. They probably don't need the offseason work. But they may or may not shut him down if they get ahead of New Orleans too early. New Orleans with Jameis Winston, I will say, I said it last week, I didn't think they were very good. They look much better than I anticipated, so I am liking that Devante Adams pick a little bit more because I don't see him getting pulled out early. But you never know, okay? Travis Kelce, $8,300, the obvious choice at tight end, but I think there's so much value deep and low at the tight end position. And then George Kittle against that horrible Detroit Lions defense once again. I'm probably not putting either of these tight ends in my lineup. If I had to pick one, I'd probably lean George Kittle week 1. And now our stacks for week 1. The stacks is basically you want to take multiple players from the team and put them together because there's a high correlation of success. Most tournament winners actually come from the stacks, at least a quarterback and a wide receiver. By correlation, again, a quarterback with a big game is going to have at least one, maybe two wide receivers that have a good game. If your wide receiver has a great game, your quarterback more than likely has a good game. If Calvin Ridley goes off for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, that means Matt Ryan threw for at least 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, he probably threw for more than that in terms of yardage, but at least you get that together. Every time there's a touchdown by Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan's going to be on the other end of that because he's the one that threw it. And before we get into this, as I mentioned, the Draftkings giveaway. If you entered last week, congratulations. You get to enter again. You get 2 chances. If you haven't entered last week, go back to part 1 video and enter again. What you need to do is comment on this, like the video first off, subscribe so I can comment you and DM you when you win. But comment who will be the top scorer and how many points. I said it last week. If you think Devante Adams is going to be the top scorer of the week, put down below, Devante Adams, 37 points. If Devante gets 37.8 points, one person that correctly guessed that is going to win a $10 DraftKings ticket. I'll be sending that over to them to be used next week. 1 entry per person per video. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. 1 winner from all correct entries will win. So again, if you haven't entered into the first video, go back and watch it. If you already have, make sure you comment below because you have 2 chances to win. Mix it up a little bit if you want. But the Chargers stack with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler, I think looks really good week 1. Some people are saying that Redskins defense is elite. So I get that you might want to shy away. Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan, underpriced. Mike Davis, underpriced. Calvin Ridley, priced appropriately, but it's an Atlanta Falcons defense that was horrible. I think I mentioned it earlier. The defensive backs were 29th in the league last year in terms of yards per game given up. They struggled at time against pass-catching backs. Mike Davis has that ability. We saw it in Carolina. Not sure how much they're going to use it in Atlanta, but that is a big back. Philadelphia is going to have to cover Kyle Pitts, Russell Gage, Calvin Ridley. Mike Davis should have a lot of room to operate later in the game. He is a bruiser. I really like this Atlanta Falcons stack. Opposite side, didn't talk about them too much, but Philadelphia Eagles is dirt cheap. Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, and Devonta Smith, I think, are all underpriced. I don't love them, but I think they're very good, viable options for you to have a nice base and a foundation for your lineup. And lastly, San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. I spelled Brandon wrong. That's a big oopsies. He deserves better than this. Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. I think all of these are really, really good plays against a horrible Detroit Lions defense, okay? So again, my favorite is probably the Atlanta Falcons one. If you're paying attention, Atlanta Falcons. And then defenses, Carolina Panthers, 3,600 against Zach Wilson in his first career game. Generate a little bit of pressure. There should be plenty of interceptions. He's going to be rushing the ball, I feel like. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. but Zach Wilson's probably going to be forced into a few turnovers in this one. LA Chargers going up against Washington. Fitzpatrick, he's known to be a gunslinger. I think he's kind of got that Jameis Winston mentality where he could go off for 3 touchdowns, but he's also going to throw 3 interceptions. He's going to get sacked a couple of times. The LA Chargers are great at generating pressure, and sacks and turnovers are king when it comes to a defense. The best defense of the week is probably going to be the 49ers against the Detroit Lions. Horrible. Mentioned it. Matt Stafford has, Amon-Ra St. Brown to throw to, and Hawkinson. DeAndre Swift's not even 100% healthy, allegedly. He has a groin injury. So you're stuck with Jamal Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and TJ Hawkinson. And Jared Goff as your quarterback. If that doesn't scream Pro Bowl honors, I don't know what does. And then the Jaguars going up against Houston. There's so many question marks in the air for Houston. You have, I think, 6 running backs: Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, David Johnson, and others. I can't even remember all of them anymore. But you don't even know who they haven't even announced who the official starters. We assume it's going to be Mark Ingram with Phillip Lindsay, and then David Johnson spelled in. But the Jaguars aren't a great defense, but I think they could do enough in this one. And before we go, just want to send you a reminder, okay? Points for week 1 are always massive. Don't be disheartened if you don't cash, if you don't win the $1 million. It's made to bring in as many people as possible at the beginning of the year. Deposit that $100 into your account. Deposit that $200. That's what Draftkings wants. Put money in the account. And then don't win. And they're like, dang, I know I can do better. I could have done that. That wasn't that good. I can win next week. Save your money week 1. Week 1's always tough, I promise you. Save your money for week 3 through 5. That's the money-winning weeks. That's when people get desperate, and that's when we can start to pounce and make big plays in the larger tournaments. Tons of value at the wide receiver and tight end position. I think the running backs you have to pay up for. We know who the starters are going to be. At the wide receivers, because this pricing was made 5 weeks out, we can really take advantage of some of those pricing errors that they made. Aim for 4 times points per $1,000 spent. Again, especially early on in the season, if you're playing 50-50s double-ups, make sure you have a high floor, high opportunity, high touch, high volume. That's why I love putting in 3 running backs. I know they are going to get touches. For me, that's most important in my 50-50s and my double-ups. Just having the opportunity to get into the end zone is key. In the bigger tournaments, yeah, you're probably going to want to take some shots at some of these wide receivers that might pop off and go 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, 120 yards. Maybe that's your preference. That's not mine. And then week 1, I'm playing single entries, double ups, and 50-50s. I'll sprinkle into the Millionaire Maker, I said, but I'm not going to be entering a lot of contests where people have 150 lineups to my 1. I think I'm smarter than the average NFL viewer and smarter than the average. I think you're smarter than the average DraftKings player. You're putting in some research. I think you're smarter than the average DraftKings player. Therefore, the 50-50s and double-ups is where I live the first 2 weeks of the season, and then week 3 through 5, I kind of split it up more 50-50. So just take advantage of that. Make sure you're playing hard. Play smart. This is NFL Week 1 of the 2021 season. It's a long season. There's an extra game. It is a long season. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Put it in the comments below. Don't forget to enter in for that chance to win that $10 DraftKings ticket. I'm sure it'll be more as the season goes on. The more engagement we have, the larger the prize. I think the largest prize we gave away last year or 2 years ago was a $50 DraftKings prize. So it'll continue to grow if no one guesses it and we get more engagement from the videos. Find me on Patreon, patreon.com/allaccess. That's in the description below. You can get our starting 5, the best bets, weather reports, before anyone else gets it. So thank you for those that go above and beyond in support of the channel. If you want it for free, it comes out Sunday morning. Our starting 5 will come out Sunday morning about an hour and a half before kickoff. So pay attention over there, facebook.com/allaccess. That's it. Comment your top score of the week. I cannot remind you enough because not enough people enter this contest. I tell you, comment your top score of the week. Good luck. Hopefully the next time that I see you is in the green.